Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I would like to talk about how we, as human beings, might respond to the rapid advances in AI and robotics, and what we should fear, and also what we might allow ourselves to hope for. Recently, we often hear certain concerns. Will AI take away human jobs? Will robots replace more and more kinds of work, leaving people unable to earn a living? Will prices fall so sharply that companies can no longer survive, leading to unemployment and instability? And even if society provides a basic income or some form of income support, can that really be sustained over time? These concerns are not unreasonable. As technology advances, it becomes harder and harder to believe that society can simply continue under the old rules. But what matters here is this: the problem is not technological progress itself. The problem is that our institutions may not yet be prepared to receive that progress well. If AI and robotics make it possible to produce, manage, and distribute many things more cheaply, more quickly, and more accurately than before, then that should in itself be a good thing for humanity. It could mean that people no longer need to work as much just to survive. It could mean that dangerous and repetitive tasks can be entrusted to machines. It could mean that people gain more time for raising children, caring for others, learning, creating, participating in their communities, or simply resting. In other words, it should mean an expansion of human abundance. And yet, many people feel fear rather than relief. Why is that? It is because our present society is built on the assumption that people must continue to work, continue to earn wages, and businesses must continue to grow in order for life to remain stable. So even when technology creates the possibility of what we might call good deflation, lower costs, and greater real abundance through innovation, we find it difficult to welcome it. Falling prices do not automatically become greater security for people. Instead, they may become unemployment, anxiety, and disorder. This is where the institutional contradiction appears. That is why I would like to speak today about three ideas: a WDU33, A, V, DT, and lower bound price theory. First, W33. This is the idea of redesigning the week into 3 days of primary work, 3 days of free activity, and 1 day of rest. But one important point must be made very clearly: the 3 days of free activity are not a prohibition on work. They are truly free. A person may choose to do additional work. A person may take on a different kind of work. A person may study. A person may care for children or the elderly. A person may contribute to the local community. A person may create something. A person may also simply rest. The point is to restore human time as something that is not entirely controlled by a single employment relationship. So WW33 is not merely a proposal to shorten working hours. It is a proposal to give society more room to adapt to change from within. If AI replaces one kind of work, a person does not immediately become unnecessary. That person may shift into another activity. People may legally hold multiple jobs. They may retrain. They may engage in local or informal forms of support and cooperation. W33 is not a system designed to bind people more tightly to firms. Rather, it is a system that creates a kind of social breathing room, allowing people to respond to change without breaking. Next, AVTT. This stands for Automated Value Transfer Tax. At first, the term may sound complicated, but the underlying idea is actually quite simple. In present society, there are many different kinds of taxes. The system is complicated, declarations are burdensome. There are loopholes, opacity, and unevenness. AVTT starts from a different idea. It asks whether value might be returned to society automatically at a low rate at the very moment when value is transferred. If that were possible, then the heavy process of collecting taxes first and redistributing them later could become far more transparent and automatic. And on that basis, it could become possible to support a minimum income for each person, something like a basic income. What matters here is not the idea that no one should work. Rather, it is the idea that the minimum conditions for living should no longer depend entirely on employment status. In that sense, AVTT helps society become more resilient in times of change. So WW33 softens the time structure of life, and AVTT stabilizes the income side. Together, they allow us to look at the age of AI from a different angle. But even then, one major question remains. If AI and robotics continue to reduce the cost of making things, then how should society think about prices? What counts as a proper price in such a world? This is where lower bound price theory enters. This theory does not determine actual market prices. That point is very important. It does not say this is the one true price of a thing. Instead, it asks a different question. What is the minimum price necessary for a resource or product to remain available in society in a usable state, to be maintained, reproduced, transported, and supplied again when needed? Suppose AI becomes so advanced that much of manufacturing can be almost fully automated. The direct cost of production may fall sharply, but that does not mean every cost disappears. Materials are still needed. Materials must be stored in good condition. They must be monitored and protected. They must be transported. They must be prevented from degrading or leaking along the way. And if they are to be recovered, reused, or re-refined after use, then facilities and energy are still required for that too. So even in a world of advanced automation, there remains a core that does not disappear. Lower bound price theory tries to make that visible. Once we can see that lower bound, we can begin to understand falling prices not simply as chaos or collapse, but as part of a more meaningful question. How far can prices fall safely? And below, what point does supply itself begin to break down? This is extremely important if we want to receive good deflation without turning it into social instability, because what people really want is not simply the cheapest possible society. What people want is a society in which necessary things remain stably and safely available. Here, another idea also comes into play, the elemental token market. This may sound somewhat futuristic, but its core is not speculation. Its purpose is to create a way of handling resources, or more precisely, resources maintained in a certain condition, through contracts that specify where they are, in what state they exist, and under what conditions they can be delivered. So the point is not merely to say there is iron or there is hydrogen. The point is to say this resource in this condition at this location under these delivery conditions can be supplied. In this way, supply conditions become visible. Resources can be directed toward where they are needed with less waste and greater safety in a form that remains compatible with reproduction and long-term circulation. This too helps support good deflation. It helps ensure that even if prices fall, supply itself does not collapse. At this point, someone may ask, but what about desire, hope, expectation, culture, beauty, meaning? What happens to those? These things remain important. Lower bound price theory is not an attempt to reduce all value to physics. Actual prices are still influenced by demand, by popularity, by culture, by stories, by hope. Human beings do not act economically only in order to survive. People also pay for beauty, aspiration, meaning, and emotional significance. That part remains, and that is why this theory is not a theory that determines everything. It is rather a theory that helps us think about the minimum conditions required to keep society from losing its material footing. So, what kind of society begins to appear if we bring these three elements together? W33 softens the structure of time. AVTT stabilizes the minimum conditions of life and separates them from employment. Lower bound price theory helps us avoid losing sight of the floor of supply, even in a world of technological price decline. Then the advance of AI and robotics no longer appears only as a threat of unemployment. It also begins to appear as a condition under which human life might become broader and freer. Work will remain, of course, but its meaning may gradually change. People may no longer work only in order to survive. They may work in order to do what is valuable. They may share the work needed to sustain society. They may use newly freed time for themselves, for others, or for the places where they live. And the surplus created by machines may be transformed not into fear, but into freedom. For that to happen, technological innovation alone is not enough. Institutions must evolve as well. The real problem is not that AI is advancing. The real problem is that our institutions are still old. Once we see this, the question itself changes. The question is no longer, should we stop AI? The question becomes, how do we build institutions that allow human beings to receive the possibilities opened by AI without being broken by them? W33, AVTT, and lower bound price theory are one possible answer to that question. They may not be the only answer, but they do, I believe, point in a direction in which technological progress can be received not only as danger, but as an expansion of real human abundance. What we should aim for is not a society in which machines work and human beings become unnecessary. What we should aim for is a society in which, with the help of machines, human beings are able to live more fully as human beings. Thank you very much for listening.